Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Do apologise. We do apologise. Welcome back. It is the Imola round 5 here at the Tuatara Championship. We did have a bit of a moment there where we had to redo the lobby and restart my PC because it just had a bit of a moment. But we've got it back as quick as we can. And hopefully you guys are back. And Zach, we can continue where we left off.
Yeah, we definitely can. Of course, apologies for the technical difficulties, but at the end of the day, things can't be helped, and things happen as well. Bottom line is, but we're back. We're raring to go. We've got the full fleet of drivers who are here, ready to race. Of course, for another round of what has so far proved to be a very strong championship with how close things are, and what a very strong venue that we are here at as well. Imola should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, talk to me about the opportunities here at Imola. The overtaking, you've got down the straight, but anywhere else you need to be where you can sneak in those overtakes here at Imola?
Plenty of places, in fairness. I mean, obviously, with Imola being such a high downforce circuit, being in the slipstream is a huge help because obviously, you know, with the drag reduction and things, you're of course, the wings are doing less work. You know, they're being pushed on by less air if you're tucked up behind someone, which means that long run from the second Piratella into the first braking zone at the Villeneuve chicane, the Tamburello chicane, I should say. You get a lot of slipstream. Pair that with a little bit of ERS deployment as well, you can have a really, really good run. So obviously turn 2 technically with the Tamburello chicane. Villeneuve, obviously that quick left-right just after. Not ideal, definitely doable if obviously you're racing the right person, the opportunity arises. Not the best one I'd go for. Into Tosa can be a shout for sure. Then obviously you rise up the hill, then into the Piratella. Acqua Minerale, probably not. Of course, then you go uphill towards the Variante Alta. Can be done again. It's just a little bit of an awkward chicane, a little bit fidgety in terms of the sausage curbs on either side, through the right, then the left. So not advised, but again, doable if the opportunity does come your way. Into then the final 2 corners at Ravazza. Downhill braking, 90-degree left-hander, you can go for the move there, but I think the main one, of course, is just going to be biding your time, waiting for that run into turns 1, 2, and 3, and then trying to maximize your opportunities. I think this race is going to be one of strategy.
Yeah, and I've just got to go on to that. You were talking about the importance of the slipstream. Now, you know, with it being a 50% race and the pace is so strong with these guys, you've got to manage those times that you battle because you need to be sticking with that front pack in that slipstream is crucial. So battling too early could be damaging for the long term of your race.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we saw that sort of dynamic at Austria as such, again, with how people race each other, how people prioritize different packs. And very quickly, those that did begin to battle saw themselves drop off the rest. And because, I mean, to be fair, here at Imola, it should be slightly easier to do because it's more technical. There are more opportunities to regain time. But when slipstream does take such a high precedence, once you get rid of it, once you don't have it, it's so much more difficult to get back into it. So that means that sort of the priority, I know it's obvious, but just don't lose it in the first place as such. Bide your time, choose your moments, and really you have to weigh up. Say if you're in 6th and you go for a move for 5th, but you're all in one long train for the lead, you go, is it really worth it on lap 5 of course, what we're going to do about 30 odd laps here? Is it worth it? Does it mean a lot in the grand scheme of things? Or is it better I sit here, save my fuel, save my tyres, save some ERS, and win it on strategy?
Exactly that, and we're underway in the qualifying session right now, but if you want to keep a close eye on the standings, then head over to the Tuatara website, !Tuatara in the chat. You can have a look at the standings, and I believe it's a fight at the top between Carlson and the ex-Formula 1 esports driver Haas, Floris. How do you pronounce it? You say Viers. Floris?
Yeah.
Viers.
Because he's Dutch, right?
Yeah.
So it's a Germanic language, and I've always said W is V.
Right.
And he's not correct. He's not corrected me, so
We're going with it. I just say Floris. It's easy. No, you can't. No. Right. Okay. Let's get into the qualifying then, Zach. Away we go.
Yeah, of course, we've touched on track position maybe being a little bit more important here at Imola with a little bit more of a technical circuit. So definitely getting out there and putting in a good lap time is going to be of vital importance. You can see the AlphaTauri of Jermaine out there on some intermediates, trying to bed his way into the session and obviously not waste too many tyres. And that's sort of a good thing as such, is warming yourself up, getting acclimatized to the setup to the car, whilst also not wasting a set of actual running tyres that you're going to use throughout the weekend of both qualifying and the race. So he's out there putting a bank of time in, and then we're going to see what he can do a little bit later on in the session. But right now, I think the aim is to put a lap down. Doesn't need to be the lap, just a lap.
Exactly that. Riding on board with Slapbus in the Red Bull then. Had a great season last year. Managed to get himself in the top 3 in the championship. Finding it a little bit harder this year. Banana gets the first lap time in the Haas with a 1:15.1, followed by CPI Chris into the low 1:14s. That's a great lap time. What can Slapbus do in the Red Bull for his banker lap? It is a 1:14.7, so already in the low 1:14s at.
Yeah, Chris putting in a really good lap time right at the end of that one there. So the first runs are in, and a 14.1 is the benchmark to beat. Auster goes up to second, a 14.6. His qualifying Austria definitely not too bad at all. So looking to continue that form. So far, very, very close. And of course, Chris in that Mercedes looking ever sort of...
It was only short-lived, Zach. It was only short-lived.
2/10.
Wow. Wow, well played, Flores. Flores then puts his marker down nice and early. A 1:13.9, like Zach said, 2/10. CPI getting a great lap in, but Flores Flyers. I'm just going to continue saying Flores, Zach. I'm not going to try and copy it.
Flyers. I mean, he is flying. Flores Flyers flying. We'll go with that. He's the triple.
He's flying. It's fine. Flores Flyers is flying.
He's. I mean, he is. He is. He's up there, and it's fine. We're English commentators. We never get names right. You'd be surprised in my commentary career how many names I've completely butchered. Because I once had a series where the entire grid was Polish, and we didn't see an entry list until we saw the grid from qualifying. So we were going through the grid trying to read all of these names, and it just didn't work. So yeah, names are always a tricky one.
Well, Zach, we've got Carlson, up there with Flores, coming to round to start his flying lap. Why don't you talk us through a fast lap around this similar circuit?
Yeah, of course. So starting the lap in 7th gear, of course, you stick around to the Qatar Airways. That's the start-finish line. You run your way through the slight kink towards turn number 1, then into turn 2 with this Ambrose chicane. You're braking pretty much just as that curb starts. 5th gear through the left, then the right. Avoid the such curbs on the inside. Through this quick flick to the left, completely flat out as you build traction towards the Villeneuve chicane. It's all about keeping the car nice and balanced, keeping it as far to the left as possible. And look at the dance that we just saw there from Carlson into Tosa. All about a good exit because it's an uphill run, keeping at that minimum speed high, but also the gear high so you don't overdo it on the torque on the exit. Rear-wheel drive cars, of course, these Formula 1 cars, and very prone to losing traction through, of course, the Piratella. Very quick flick to the left. Then we go into one of the most technical parts of the circuit here, Acqua Minerale, pretty much turning while you're braking, uphill, trying to straight line the exit as best you can. Slight incline towards the Variante Alta. You're aiming pretty much for that 50 board, 4th gear, launch over the curbs before a little bit of a downshift towards 3rd, just for that extra bit of rotation. Then you head your way this downhill run towards, of course, Ravazza 1 and Ravazza 2. Again, downhill braking, but you can still carry a lot of speed in. 4th gear, over the curb, turn it in, keep the car nice and poised, build up the traction, floor it towards the line, DRS enabled, and just keep it nice and tight as best you can. The banker time is in for Carlson. That's a 13.6.
My gosh, Carlson has been doing his practice today, and that is a hell of a marker. Flores Flyers then. Flores getting a 1:13.963. Carlson 1-0, I believe, in the first run of qualifying.
Very much so, but there are more to come, of course, with the track improving as it gets more rubbed in, with people improving as well. Don't necessarily just sort of write it off at the first lap, because there are still probably 2 or 3 more runs yet to come. So obviously casting with a 13.6 doesn't mean anything at this stage.
It doesn't at all, but it's still 3/10 ahead at the minute. Lexi coming back into the showing. Left his full-time seat, but he's here as a reserve today in the Alpine. Not doing too bad at all. 1:14.5 for his first run. He's just exiting the pits. to go for another run on some beautiful, fresh, soft compound tyres. What do you think of the liveries so far, Zach? The 2024 liveries?
Carbon, a lot of it.
Carbon.
But to be fair, I know people have knocked them. A lot of them aren't bad. The Alpine livery in of itself, a very sort of strong livery as such. The Ferrari one looks absolutely gorgeous. I do like the new V-carb livery, which again is quite nice, sort of reminiscing and combining both Toro Rosso and AlphaTauri, their designs as such. So yeah, Ferrari and V-carb, I should say. Visa Cash App RB, because that is the most convoluted team name I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, I know, right?
Very strong ones. Yeah, looking forward to seeing the rest of them, but I think again we're just going to see a lot of black.
What do you think to the lime green on the track, considering it's the Tuatara colours? I think Tuatara may have to put a sponsorship deal in. What do you think?
Oh, let's go for it. I don't know if they've got the budget for that, but they definitely can. Fair dues. I mean, they've got Vishor, and he's F2, so only a little bit of a step up, I guess.
It's a big step up, I must say, but still, nice to see some proper green on the track. I think it's going to look lovely against the other cars. That proper, in-your-face, like futuristic livery. Anyway, moving on swiftly to this qualifying. F1 Lexi on a run. So far, he is up on his time through Sector 1, almost 2 tenths. Looking very good on improving there, currently in 4th place.
Up the hill towards, of course, Tuatara. So 10th and a half at the moment would not see him improve, but feel a bit more secure in that 4th place. Of course, would love to get a little bit closer to the time set by both Chris and potentially Vise, but a small twitch and an invalidation on the exit of Macron Minerali.
Yeah, so F1 Lexi then was up on his time, but pushing a little bit too much has invalidated his lap time, and he's going to have to race himself back into the pits. He's got plenty of time to do so, 8 minutes left. And Slapbus in the other Red Bull, 1:14.7 for his first run. And he's now just starting Sector 2.
See what he can do. Of course, has had a very big task put ahead of him for battling with Vise. So obviously being in that second Red Bull seat, as we've touched on, can be a little bit sort of pressurizing for him, but he's dealt with it quite well at the moment, just shy of a second off his teammate in qualifying, and just going for a bit of a slow lap, recharge his batteries and go again. We're over half the way through, only 7 minutes left, so we are into the tail end of this session, and we'll be probably awaiting the final 2 laps or so in this session.
Flores fires then, gets the fastest of anybody in Sector 1. Coming through Sector 2, it is extremely wide, just as we give him the airtime. Great Sector 1, and he overdoes it through Sector 2 and invalidates his left. The pressure's now on Flores.
I mean, to be fair, it's not necessarily, because again, he's put in such a good banker time. A 13.9 has kept him in P2, so much so that he can now push these limits and find this time. So yeah, it's not ideal. Obviously, he'd have loved to finish the lap, but it's not necessarily the end of the world. He's got time to come in and do another one, or stay out on the same set and do another one, whatever sort of tickles his fancy as such. But that one invalidation isn't going to ruin his qualifying, purely because he's done the work of putting in a decent banker.
Indeed, yeah, there is that to say. But when it comes to these two, Carlson and Flores, I know they both want to be on that pole position. And riding on board with the Mercedes driver of Kurz coming into Sector 3. Sector 2 times, almost 3 tenths up, so he will improve on his time. But is that enough to bring him up through to the top 5? He's got a bit of traffic ahead of him, and it's the 290 degrees to go. If he keeps it nice and tidy here, uses all the track on the outside. And the pedal to the metal, across the line, DRS open. It is an improvement, but he gets himself up to 6th. Not quite in that top 5, just 10th shy.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, not a bad lap time in of itself. Onto the 3rd row, you can do a lot with that. And of course, with it being the 2nd lap on this set, not bad from Kurz. I'm sure there is more in pocket. And then again, only about a 10th and a half improvement would see him from the 3rd row up onto the 2nd. So, yeah, marginal stuff here. Very, very close and competitive qualifying session.
Yeah, we've got a lot of reserves out here tonight. But so thank you for all the guys who have joined for today, including this man here, Ryan McLean. He races in the Paddy Pat lobbies, and he's shown some absolute excellent pace in there. But what can he do in this sort of league conditions? Well, he's down in 15th at the minute, and he's going for a lap here. Let's see what he can do. It's definitely going to be an improvement. At 119, he's not very competitive at all. I know he can get in the 114s, that's for sure.
100%, but again, the pressure of a sort of a league, because time trials and open lobbies and stuff like that, you have endless laps as such to put the laps in and put their times in, but once you're in the session, you only get 18 minutes, only probably about 3 or 4 laps to do it, so time constraints are there, and of course the pressure of this being for points and prizes.
Exactly that. Anyway, Ryan McQueen. I want to say Lightning McQueen. Should we call him Lightning McQueen for today?
If he was in a Ferrari, yeah. But
well, let's see what lap time he comes in with, and we can call him Lightning McQueen if he deserves it.
Let's have a look. I expect Cole to have the Lightning McQueen status. P12.
I think he can do better, but I'm not sure he's got enough time. That 4 minutes left of the session.
Who comes in? So 1 minute 13 from now. That's on a push lap. So say a minute and a half. That's going to be 2 minutes 20 to go. Yeah, I mean he could. He just doesn't want to wait around in the pit lane, and this has to be a fast in lap. So possible, but obviously not ideal. As well, definitely wanting to get back to the pit lane with his liberties with the track limits.
Riding on board with Pricey then. Currently 1:15.2. Times are very close out there. Top 11 in the 1:14s. With the only 2 in the 1:13s is Flores and Carlson riding on board with Pricey at the minute in the Alpine. Coming through sector 2. What is his times looking like? Is he going to be up through here? Ooh, goes a little bit wide, and just like that, it's an invalidation.
Easily done here at Imola. The track limits are difficult. Again, you wouldn't necessarily think so with it being, quite a circuit with a lack of runoff, but track limits are brutal through the chicanes. It's very easy to overdo it on the curbs, on the exits. Through Ackerman and Raleigh, again, easy to run wide. Plenty of places where you can invalidate, and it is a circuit where you do have to be on the limit, but also keep within the confines of the track. So definitely a fine balance to get it right.
Yeah, and that guy Jermaine then, yet to set a competitive lap time here with only 2 minutes left to go. This would be his only chance. Got a bit of traffic there in front of him, but he gets out of the way quite nicely indeed. And I may have got a little bit of a tow there for him, help him along his way. Another reserve driver in tonight. Let's see what that guy can do. That's such a difficult section, that the downhill, uphill, as well as off camber corner. It really does drag that car all the way to the outside, and you lose a bit of downforce through there, don't you?
Yeah, you do. The decompressions really do sort of play a factor on the car. The sudden changes in undulation really do unsettle it sometimes. And also, obviously, when you go into the initial right-hander, you then have to immediately slam on the brakes while you're still kind of turning, which again adds added load onto all 4 tyres and makes it a little bit more prone to spin and snap. And again, the compression at the apex, just as you're trying to add that throttle, when the car is then obviously not at its necessarily its grippiest, or there's a change in the state of the car, very easy again for the car to go sideways, and you have to catch it, and then by doing so you go off the road. So yeah, Imola as a whole, very technical, but Ackerman and Raleigh,
sorry Zach, Flores is invalidated. He was fastest in sector 1, and he's invalidated in the exact same place as the last run. And that will be his chances of pole. He's going to have to get himself set for the race now.
Unless he wants to go for a second run on the same set of tyres. I mean, it's definitely doable, but how much does he want that pole position? I have to say, I'm very surprised that we haven't seen more of an improvement at the front. Carlson is out there now looking to improve on a 13.6. Is this more of a formality now for him, though, in order to secure that pole position? Because with Flores, obviously, maybe not able to improve, it's going to be that much more easy for the Aston Martin. I think he is. He's on 76%
ERS. Yeah.
final lap.
Yeah, he saved it. Well played to him. He's managed to save that ERS to give it another run. And let's see what he can do. He knows he's got it in him as he got the fastest in Sector 1. But let's keep an eye out for the Aston Martin driver of Carlson, who's going through Sector 2 now. Is he going to improve here? And like I say, that section there, just millimetres for invalidating. But for Carlson, he gets himself through, and he is improved by almost a tenth so far through Sector 2. Can he improve on his time? He's got a couple of corners more to the gate. He's going to put a marker down even more here. If he can keep it together through Sector 3. Oh! Can we get the close camera out there? That looked like it went a bit too wide. Anyway, it's not invalidated. It's an improvement. It's a 1:13.5, Zach. Woo, baby. Fantastic stuff. Great lap time there from Carlson. But once again, Flores is taking it to him as well. Fastest in Sector 2.
4 tenths up.
He's 4 tenths up. Holy moly, this is going to be close. This is going to be close. Who's it going to be, Zach? Take it over.
Across the line, of course, it was a very solid improvement. This time it is a valid lap for Forest Fires. DRS open, tight run to the line.
Oh!
It's not enough. 74 thousandths of a second separate our two championship rivals. They once again share the front row for another round of the Tuatara Championship. Gagley gets close as well, up into third, just ahead of Alster. Look at that, 4 cars within the same tenth of a second in that fight for third. That is insane. What a race that we're in.
That's why we love the Tuatara Championship, ladies and gentlemen. The timings of qualifying. Holy, I'm absolutely gobsmacked with that, Zach. That just come out of nowhere.
Really did. Heated up all the way. I mean, the entire field. I mean, the top 10 separated by less than a second, top 11 separated by less than a second, and the entire field of those that put in a semi-competitive lap time is about only less than 2 seconds between 1st to 15th, which is insane how close this championship is. Bring on the race.
Exactly that. Up next then, the race. Carlson then is the man on pole out there today. Flores not quite getting there by just 74 thousandths of a second. Gagley putting a 1-lap wonder in out of nowhere. Didn't set a lap time for the whole qualifying. Comes in, sets one, goes back in. Second row of the grid. Lovely. Oyster, great showing from him in the car in 4th place. Alexi in 5th. Slapbus in 6th. 7th, Flossie. 8th for Chris. And we've run out of time. I do got to get better at that, haven't I? Up next then, the race. Hopefully we do get any glitches through the formation lap tonight.
Sandvort, flashbacks.
Oh
no.
God, PTSD.
Yeah, it wouldn't be fun to go through that again, and I'm sure the drivers definitely would not appreciate it. So fingers crossed for a nice smooth transition into the race. For what should hopefully be an absolute belter of a Grand Prix.
Very much looking forward to this one. Looking at those times, the tops. Well, yeah, you could say the top 10 are pretty much inseparable. Anyone's game, you know, it's got to be down to tyre management, race management, battling at the right times. You know, all these you've got to take into account for the race. You know, even down to the fuel load, getting that fuel load right. Are we going to be predicting safety cars? You know, it's so much to think that these guys are doing right now before we've even got into a formation lap.
Yeah, so much stuff that they have to, you know, put up with, deal with, you know, play in their mind as a driver. They're their own strategist, their own setup makers, unless they're sort of part of a bigger esports organization as such. But they've got all these things on their mind, constantly obviously tweaking stuff with their brake bias and differential and this, that and the other, you know, to find those lap times through each and every single corner. Then obviously they've got this formation lap. It's all going to be about obviously bedding the tyres, embedding the brakes in, and also just that final preparation mentally to get themselves either psyched up, you know, get that burst of adrenaline, or to reel themselves back in, to calm those nerves and to settle themselves down, ready for what is going to be a very, very long race ahead. One decided on strategy. Forest Fire is the only driver, though, on the softs.
Yeah, very interesting there. Let's go and check that out for the stream as well. So Carlson going for the hard tyre. Flores really mixing up the strategy there. Very mixed grid with the strategy. Does Flores know something the rest don't? The only man out there on the softs.
So typically, as was brought up in the Twitch chat, hard to medium is the way to go, or sort of any variation of that. Not often that you'd actually see the softs, because obviously it's quite a technical circuit, is Imola, quite high on deg, so it's going to be difficult to obviously keep those softs in check. And Vise has never been a driver to go for this alternate softer strategy. We've always seen him start on the harder tyre and go long, so maybe just trying to switch things up a little bit.
Well, he's going to get a great start into turn one, but whether or not Carlson can get the jump we're almost ready to go and find out. But I think Carlson might be shocked there with Floris's decision for the softs. But it's crucial that he tries and stays ahead into turn one. You know, try and hold him up a little bit there, take away a bit of that tyre deg away, an advantage from the softs as long as he can. But it's going to be a tall order, especially with a long run into turn one.
It is indeed. Of course, we're going to wait for everyone to line up on the grid, then get themselves raring to go. 5 red lights on, and 32 laps ahead of us. Strategy should be fun, and yeah, let's bring it on.
Here we go, take it away then, Zach.
5 red lights are on. Another round of the Tuatara Championship. Carlson and Vise on pole. We're waiting for the grids to be released. Of course, from my screen, it's underway. Now we finally get going, and it's a decent start, of course, from pole position for Carlson. Floris Vise, though, trying to get a good jump and immediately trying to put some pressure on some Gagley as well there into the mix there. 1, 2, 3, nose to tail. Here comes the Red Bull to the inside of turn number 1, but Carlson not going to give it up without a fight. Both of them come into contact, and sideways is the Red Bull tumbling down now behind Auster. Carlson as well losing the place to 4. So Gagley leads from Auster going to end sector 1.
That was a perfect moment there for through goes Hamilton, but this case it was through goes Gagley. Gagley then leading a race. The 2 drivers on the front row down in 3rd and 4th, but overall not a bad start from these guys.
Really not. Everyone keeping it fairly clean. Of course, the 2 champion rivals coming together, not ideal, but for Floris Vise, he is ahead of the only man that in his head matters as such. Gagley and Auster separated by less than a 10th of a second in qualifying, now out there fighting for the lead of the race. Of course, Auster was overjoyed with the fact he finished on the podium last week. Let's see if he can make it 2 rounds in 2.
He's really turned it up, hasn't he? His Oyster up into 2nd place at the minute on those medium tyres, but he's got a very fast Floris back into P3. And, you can see really hunching his rear diffuser down.
He is all over the rear end of him. Slightly overdriving the car though as Floris Vise, so maybe expecting more grip from them softs, or just getting a little bit desperate. You can see getting sort of discouraged by Auster there. Let's see if the Red Bull's going to be ahead by the time they reach turn number 1. He is on the inside. Surely the McLaren doesn't fight that. He doesn't. The Red Bull through into 2nd. A car's buffer between himself and Carlson, and now a fight for the lead. However, the McLaren gets slow. Here comes Carlson to the outside of Villeneuve.
Oh, and just gets him through the turn there. That was very brave there from Carlson. He knows he's got to stick with Floris here, and that was a very brave move around the outside of the McLaren.
Yeah, nicely done. Carlson, of course, being confident when he needs to be. Also a fight in the background. There's Chris moving his way past the Williams of Sloshy into the Piratella. Close to contact, and there is. The Williams is round into the barrier. Both of them now sustaining damage. And Sloshy with a 5-second time penalty for severe collision with Chris. I would definitely argue that's not his fault one bit. But either way, not ideal for either of them drivers. Not the start to the race they would have wanted.
Not indeed, but that's racing. Sometimes these things happen. Kurz then goes a little bit wide on the exit, but managed to get back on track without losing any position. Still on the back of Phantom. Oster in the other McLaren back down to 4th place after an incredible start. Floris and Carlson. Carlson sticking with Floris on those hard tyres.
He is. That's a miserly impressive feat, and one that could sort of determine the tide of this race. Of course, the ideology when you go for the softs is to go fast at the start. That's obvious, of course. You're on the softs. Get away, break the DRS, and of course maintain track position for as long as you can. Stay away from the fights that, unfortunately, Floris Vise now finds himself in. So the exact opposite of what's happened has happened for the Red Bull, and now he needs to buck up his ideas and get after Gagley, get the track position before those tyres are shot and fall off a cliff.
Riding on board with the Mercedes of NRT Kurz, looking to make a move on Phantom. Picking the right spot, of course. You don't want to be battling too hard at this stage if you can help it. You want to be sticking with that the DRS zone. Is so crucial to be in that DRS train. But Phantom is looking a little bit like he's struggling out there. 1.3 seconds is the gap between him and Slapbus at the minute, and it looks like Kurz wants to get a move on.
think so. Wanting to make the most of those fresh mediums, and of course the McLaren in his way wants to get after the very close fight for second as it stands, and of course right now only 1.7 seconds off that. If he can get ahead of the McLaren and start to get after the Red Bull, the opportunity to be involved in that is quite high. DRS enabled. Not going to even use any of his ERS, just going to save it, pull out to the left, get ahead. Should be a fairly easy affair. Trying to slingshot his way towards the other pack then. And there's also the Ferrari of Walpole on the inside of Phantom. The two run side by side. The McLaren chucks it back to the inside of the second part. But in the end, it is the Ferrari that stays ahead. But with pack racing being as close as it is, Phantom was nearly under threat from Ryan McLean as well.
It was, and while you were talking there, Carlson on the hard tyre got ahead of Flores. Is he struggling already on those soft tyres?
Maybe. Of course, high deg around here. Heavy fuel means more load on those tyres, so very much potentially so. Of course, we saw a couple of slides earlier on, maybe some damage sustained to Flores Fires as well. So there is a lot of variables in this, but those softs definitely don't look too quick. And I'd say so far in this race, it's a strategical blunder for Flores Fires early on.
Indeed, Lexi then up into 12th place, gets ahead of Banana. Flatbus then picking up the first 3 seconds for track limits. Track limits, we didn't really talk much about track limits, but it is a factor in Imola. You know, it's very easy to go wide around here, isn't it?
It is. Let's see who's going to be the one to come out on top in this particular battle, though. Carlson versus Gagley. The Aston Martin pulls out to the left. Let's see if the Ferrari can fight. I don't think so. The DRS too powerful. Side by side, Alster moving his way to the outside of Forest Fires. The McLaren catapults his way back onto the podium, and those softs are absolutely done. Keep it on track, of course. Very easy to extend to the limits here, but nonetheless, everyone keeping it just about within them early on in this race in terms of the racing limits as such. Track limits, though, maybe not so much over the course of the 32 laps.
I'm just seeing there if Flores got any end plate damage, but it doesn't seem to have any. So it must be just tyre deg. It must be tyre deg, like putting too much out of those soft tyres at the start, like you say, a few slides. No, down in 4th place. And like you say, could it be a strategy blunder here for Flores? A very rare strategy blunder, may I add.
Yeah, not really like him to, of course, make a mistake like this. But then again, circumstance hasn't necessarily gone his way. A couple of time penalties coming in as well. You can see by Liam, 3 seconds for track limits already. But yeah, I mean, his idea was get the lead, run away. That didn't happen. He's then had to obviously use more of his tyres to fight back, and by the time they've dropped, instead of being 3 seconds ahead, he's now 3 seconds behind the race leader and where he would want to be. Very close for the lead between Carlson and Gagley. They're very, very close, and I think just working together to get away from the rest of the field. Yeah,
so it's important, this DRS down this pit straight. A lot of overtakes at the minute. Slapbus down in 6th place. Ryan McLean, who's reserved today on the hard tyres, starting to come to life, those hards. Up into 7th now, Ryan, the reserve driver for tonight, doing an incredible job there in the top 10.
Yeah, he is looking very, very strong. And again, not necessarily for a reserve driver to demean him like that, but the fact that he's not racing this championship up until this point this season has been very, a very strong debut with all things considered. 3 seconds up to the next car, though, is going to be tough to close. But of course, with Slapbuster's penalty, as wide there, that's Phantom off the road on the exit of Ackerman and Raleigh, rejoins outside of the top 10. So once again, Imola proving to be a very difficult affair for all of these drivers.
Yes, indeed. Just watching Gracious Bear and Banana battling it out there, but they seem to have calmed down for a minute or two. Back to the top then, Carlson leading this race, started on the hard compound tyre, Gagley and P2, but them two out of the DRS zone of Oyster, but Oyster doing an incredible job as it stands, but you've got Mercedes driver of Curse right on that rear end now on the medium tyre. He's going to have a better tyre for this stage of the race, and he's putting Flores under a lot of pressure here.
Let's see into Villeneuve. None of them, of course, close enough to change positions, but Vires, yeah, his tyres are gone. And you can see overdriving the car, twitching all over the place as such. That Mercedes eyeing up that move in the near future. I mean, to be fair to Vires, he stayed close to Alster, but The top two of Carson and Gagley have flown away, now 2 seconds clear of the rest. So yeah, this fight here may well, as the race goes on, continue to sort of cement itself as only a fight for third, which of course Alistair is going to take to his grave.
Exactly that. Unless we see some safety car through the race, it could help out Flores' strategy. We'd be asking for the safety car gods to come out at any point now, I tell you. But Curse is wanting to get a move on here. I think Curse sniffed a bit of a podium here. Does Curse in the Mercedes on the medium tyre. It looks like he's got more pace than the two cars ahead of him at this stage. And I think we could maybe see, a double overtake here. Let's ride on board with the Mercedes driver then. DRS open, ERS on full throttle. Flores pulls to one side, and he's just got to back off there. Is he going to send it? No, he doesn't. And it's he does get the McLaren, but he had to get off the throttle there because the Red Bull went right across the track.
Yeah, Florence Vires did not want to allow Curse through one bit. Of course, through up into third, Alistair down to fifth. So Curse at least making up a position himself. But yeah, up to fourth. Alistair not with the best of runs. Yellow flags to the first sector. That's the Haas of Gracious Bear. He is able to rejoin the circuit and it is fine. Only a yellow flag, no safety car as of yet. A quarter of the way through the race already. Still very, very close here for this fight for third. Still close for the fight for first, but they're having the right ideas to work together, get away, and decide that battle a little bit later on. Have to say to Vyers, though, he's done well to take those softs this far.
Yeah, 8 laps then on the soft compound tyre. We were questioning his strategy out there at the start of this race. We were thinking he maybe knew something we didn't, but it hasn't really worked out. And as you can see, those softs are really giving him trouble out there. And I think it's going to be a matter of time before Curse takes that P3 away from him. Down the straight he goes to the inside. And that's an easy move. Could he lose 2 positions then? Oyster around the outside of Flores. Flores just about managed to hold on, but he's out of shape through turn 2. Oyster's going to try that switchback with the extra pace. And here he goes down the inside. Has he got enough? No, he hasn't. Flores just about holds on here.
Yeah, well defended from Vyers, but still down a place compared to the previous lap. But Curse through and fighting really, really nicely and demonstrating his sheer amount of pace. Bear retired and he's in the pit lane, so no problem, of course, for the overall narrative of this race. Just an unfortunate one, and joins Jermaine as the second DNF so far this race. Forest Vyers out there, though, maybe hoping for an early safety car to get those that tyre change out the way. That hasn't happened. The miracle hasn't shone his way. But what can he do? How can he play his cards? And how can he, of course, still make the most out of this race that currently his championship rival and championship leader, of course, of Carson by 5 points, is leading?
Well, does he go soft? Is he going soft? Is he pushing these for him soft mediums? Or is he going to pit early here, go for the softs, then the hards? He goes around again. Flores does, but like I say, he's getting pushed along. Like I said, they're working together a little bit. Flores in that DRS train, not close enough by the look of it to make a move. But of course, with those soft tyres, that DRS and slipstream is going to help him with his lap times at this stage.
Yeah, it might just be better to sit behind Curse. Depends, of course, how quick the Mercedes is relative to the top two, because Forrest Vyers doesn't want third, he doesn't want second, he wants a win. What was it, Abu Dhabi? Pretty much every race that he's not won, he's come back and said it's not good enough. I need to practice more, I need to get better and win these races, because that is a bare minimum for him. He's not happy with anything unless it's a victory. Of course, he still takes positives from the race, but overall isn't happy with his performance. And there we go, 3 second time penalty on a huge snap of oversteer through Minerali, rejoins sideways. Alistair, of course, taking the position. Surely that's a sign that Vyers needs to come in. A very huge mistake and a very lucky hold as well.
Yeah, he's not happy on those soft tyres. He's probably kicking himself now for the strategy, but yeah, these mistakes coming in now, it's costing him another 3 seconds. But it's not over yet. It's really important, and he keeps his cool. He keeps his cool here. And yeah, here he goes. He's in the pits. What's that? Oh, God, no.
Even worse.
Oh, that.
so he's not able to take the penalty straight away, of course. So his next pit stop will then serve that 5-second time penalty. That is huge for Vires and could well be a big turning point in this championship. Another foothold for Carlson to potentially improve on if he's able to win this race.
He must be absolutely kicking himself right now, but like I say, it's important for him to keep his calm here. There's a long way to go still, not even halfway yet. Anything can happen here. And like you say, the mistakes are starting to creep in. All it takes is a safety car, and he's back in this race.
Again, it's not going to take much, as you said, just to bring him back into contention. But right now, all hope for him at this stage obviously is lost. I mean, for Floris Vires, he's been in positions like this before. He knows how to deal with it, and he knows how to, of course, work his way forwards. I mean, just keep himself composed, really, not to be down in the dumps about it. Obviously, not the most ideal situation, but how can he work upon it? How can he limit the damage?
Get his head down. Got Pricey 4 seconds ahead of him. He's got a bit of clear track to get his head clear and put some decent lap times in. He's currently down in 15th, but the only one to make a pit stop off those soft compound tyres.
Yeah, and on to fresh medium, still the rest of them though, out on circuit and still running quite well. I mean, I have to say to Gagley, fair play. I mean, yeah, he's on mediums compared to Carlson's hards, but as those mediums continue to wear, he'll get slower compared to Carlson, of course, then it'll be harder for him to stay with the Aston Martin. But what he has done, and really cleverly, is even if he doesn't stay with Carlson for the rest of this race, he has built himself a 5-second foothold to the rest of the pack. So maybe he doesn't win, but a second place for that Ferrari would be huge.
Yeah, it definitely would. And the fact that he actually didn't do a quali lap until right to the end, he didn't even come out of the pits, not once, until right at the end, and he puts in his first lap time of a 1:14 dead. And now he's sitting there comfortably, like you say, in second place. He's got to come off the mediums onto the hards, I would say. We're not sure how many warnings he's got, but he's sticking with Carlson. And he's in that DRS getting pushed along even further. He's in a great position to that.
He is, and when will be the sort of the fighting point? When will be the turning point for Gagley to then battle with Carlson? When will he want to, as such? When is it worthy to take that risk? Maybe he's going to go for the track position and then try and keep it a little bit later on as we approach half distance in this race already. Lexi versus Liam versus Slapbus. This is the fight for 5th, and a lot of drivers very, very close. Floris Vires, though, 16.5, setting the fast lap of this race.
Indeed. Position change then, Curse in the Mercedes, up 7 places from the start of this race. He's your biggest gainer out there today, currently sitting in 3rd place on the medium tyre. Not a bad race for Curse. I did say he's sniffing that podium today. It's whether or not the likes of Floris can get some damage limitations. Like you say, he needs something to happen, really, doesn't he, to get himself back into this, especially with him sitting there with an 8-second. But he has got medium tyre, so maybe he's going for a 2-stop. Maybe he's going medium to soft.
He has to be, yeah. I mean, I reckon he's going soft, medium, soft, yeah, because there's no way he's going to stay on those mediums. Not comfortably, at least, and not quickly either. So, yeah, not looking overly strong, and will have to make another stop. He's going to be hoping for a late safety car or something that he can take that 5-second penalty with. Of course, look his way a little bit further forward and try and improve on his position. Just following some battles. Banana in the Haas comes into the pit lane, the first of those on the medium. So maybe we're starting to see that turning point where the mediums are starting to drop off ever so slightly. Yeah,
the pack is starting to come together here. Got the Red Bull Slapbus on the hards. Captain Liam on the hards and Lexi on the hards. They're all starting to group up now. It's a hell of a nice little battle starting to perform here, starting to unfold here, sorry. And it's Slapbus at the helm of it.
Yeah, of course, running with a penalty, but looking still fairly comfortable. Alistair gets himself his first 3-second time penalty. don't necessarily think it's a matter of if you get a penalty, it's almost when, and just a case of limiting how many you get over the course of this race. Chris as well gets himself his first 3-second time penalty, so a lot of black and white flags being out on circuit. The top three, however, completely bulletproof thus far, and again, that's the key to winning races, is keeping it on the circuit and not picking up silly penalties for track limits. Also, shout out to Lexi, Walpole, McLean and Phantom for not picking up penalties either, but you can give them the benefit of the doubt, those that have got penalties, because it is very, very easy to do.
It is. We've got two Oyster then, one of the front runners to make a pit stop. Waffle in the Ferrari also coming in as we see Captain Liam take a lunge on Slapbus and now ahead of this little pack. And Captain Liam also a reserve tonight as well, doing a great job on those hard tyres. Does have a 3-second, but Lexi, like you say, comfortably just sitting behind all this, letting it unfold, and waiting for his moment to pounce.
Yeah, again, just sat waiting for an opportunity. That's the way to be sometimes here at Imola, is to play the patient game. Again, if you're not losing anything by staying behind, then bide your time and wait for the perfect time to then gain as such. If you're being hammered from behind and people are really pressurizing you and you're at risk of losing, then yeah, get ahead and of course try and get that track position. But right now, say for Carson and Gagley, they're not under threat, they're able to chill out in front, they're able to use each other's slipstream and get away from the pack, more so Gagley on Carson than Carson on Gagley as such. But for Gagley, there's no reason to overtake. Only gains at the moment on the horizon. At worst, he stays with Carson, he stays behind and finishes second. At best, he works with him, pushes forward, and then late on the race goes for the win.
Exactly that. Slapbus then swapping places once again with Captain Liam. It's coming quite a trend for these two. As Lexi once again just goes round, happy to just chill there at the minute. He's probably looking at his tyres and thinking, I'll tell you what, you guys can rag it and I'll just use that slipstream and just save the tyres through the corners. Good little strategy there, I believe, from Lexi, but he's got to be careful because you've got the likes of Ryan McLean in the Aston and Phantom joining this group now and making it a quadruple battle.
Yeah, plenty of cars then, all combined out there on circuit. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, we've got Slapbus, Liam, Lexi, McLean, and Phantom. So we've actually got a quintuple.
Quintuple?
Because there's 5 of them, which is a lot of cars, and a few of them all, of course, sort of bunched into a very tight space. McLean, a 3-second time penalty for him. That's definitely unfortunate. Kurse, after coming into the pit lane, is battling away with Pricey, trying to find his way past. There's Auster as well, side by side between the McLaren and the Mercedes, going into Variante Alta. Auster getting the undercut, not necessarily the way he'd have wanted to, but a bit of traffic to contend with for the Mercedes has allowed Auster to get ahead into what is a net P3.
Brilliant job from Oyster on the undercut. Kurse is right behind him now as they enter the DRS zone. Great little battling, great show from these three.
Battling away with Auster. He's through. That was a fairly easy affair. Didn't really put up too much of a fight, and I don't think the McLaren really could if he wanted to. Further up front, though, you've got Carson still leading. Gagley's rejoined the road in 9th. Got the slipstream, of course, of the Williams just ahead to sort of assist him. He's going to be wanting as best of sort of an outlap and a bedding in phase as he can. Get those tyres up to temperature and run a really strong pace as to get the undercut on Carson and then hopefully keep that track position when he goes onto the mediums.
Got a bit of traffic here from Playboys, and it is affecting him a little bit. I mean, he's come out with a great bit of gap in respect to net positions here with Kurse at 5.6 seconds. But Gagley just getting held up a little bit there from Plays. Let's see what Carson does. He goes round for another lap there, but he is on the hard tyre. When are we expecting to see him in here? Is he going to go to the softs at the end? Or is he going to go mediums? If he's going to come in for the mediums, you're probably going to expect him anytime around what?
Now.
From now to probably lap 20 or something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, the softs could probably do about 8 laps or so. Kurse in the fastest lap. For Carson, I wouldn't put it past him to go for the softs. Definitely a him strategy to do. but what is the benefit of it? Because he's going to stretch these hards and be slower, and then he's going to go onto the softs and be quick for 3 laps, and then drop off again. So, I mean, yeah, he's going to have lighter fuel, and maybe that'll last a bit longer, but he's going to lose a lot of time that he's going to then have to gain, plus the track position as well. I'd say Gagli has actually got a really good strategy here, because right now he's quick, potentially quicker than Carlson, gaining time, gaining track position. So much so that if Carlson does go and stretch it onto the softs, he's going to have a tough job of both catching and passing Gagli if that's going to be the case at the end of the race.
And of course, these drivers can't see the gaps. They can't figure out where a nice gap is to come out in the pits, can they? So they're just it's a guessing game. But saying that, Carlson coming into the pit, maybe he was listening and he's gone onto the medium tyre. Let's keep an eye on where Gagli is. He did get held up a little bit from the Williams driver of Play's box. He's now currently gone into the pits. But Gagli then coming down the straight, Carlson exiting. As you can see there's Gagli. Oh, it's going to be ever so close. It's Gagli! Gagli gets ahead of Carlson, Zach!
Nicely done. Really important stuff for the Ferrari then, and a turning point in this race. Not only that, he's also clear of the DRS range. Carlson onto the mediums, able to push to the end. Gagli, though, more importantly, with that track position. Flores Fires yet to come in for a second stop, and as such is leading the race, but not for very long, and definitely not probably at the end of it either. 19 of 32, definitely in sort of that final closing stage of the race where we start to think about the checkered flag. Gagli, though, looking very strong, and now he's just got to defend from the reigning champion and current championship leader.
Yeah, Carlson, very experienced in the Tuatara Championship. Knows how to win it, knows how to be consistent, he knows the strategies, and he is very good at it. You've got to say, he's an all-rounder as Carlson. But he's got to do it, he's got to do the job on Gagli, yeah? He does have the better tyre. Of course, Gagli will be better towards the end. It's important that maybe Gagli doesn't battle too much at this stage. Or what would you do if you were Gagli right now?
I mean, I try and defend, but here comes Carlson straight through, just blitzes his way past. I mean, who's got more? I mean, Carlson's got better ERS. Gagli, he did well on slower tyres towards the end of his stint to stay with Carlson. Maybe he can emulate that again for stint 2, charge up his ERS and go again. But yeah, Carlson finding his way through like that, definitely sort of securing himself a top spot. 7 tenths now clear, now make it 8 tenths clear of Gagli, which I'm sure is probably only going to grow and grow. It's going to be tough for Gagli to win this race as such, but I don't think that's necessarily his aim. A nice bonus, but not necessarily the aim. I think a podium was more what Gagli was going to expect.
It's looking good so far, but of course, is still time for anything to happen in this race, whether it be a safety car, whether it be we may see rain. It looks a little bit cloudy in areas. I'm not sure if we'll see any rain, but it does look cloudy. It is on approximate, so we don't know. Sloshy picking up a 3-second. Only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drivers out there of the 18 that have no penalties, so kudos to them. But like I said, 12 laps left to go. Gagli just about, I believe, stays in that DRS, which is crucial for one more lap.
I mean, he's running the battery on empty though, so it's not actually going to be that long-lived. He's able to close the gap, but then Carlson opens it up again in the infield, and Gagli doesn't actually have a chance to save the battery because he's using all of it to stay in the DRS of Carlson. Kurse versus Auster, that fight between those two for net P3 is raging on. However, Auster still with a 3-second time penalty, but also then again, it's not impossible that Kurse gets one himself, so it's always worth the McLaren to fight for that track position and do his best to stay ahead. So a couple of interesting battles as Carlson and Gagli come to overtake Flores Fires, not for actual position, but because they're a pit stop ahead.
That's very damaging for Flores, isn't it? He's just holding out, bless him, isn't he? He's just hoping and praying that the safety car gods come out and help him. Strategy blunder from Flores today, including speeding in the pit lane and a 3-second. It's not a great day at the office for Flores, but he is trying to hold on here for damage limitations just to see what this race maybe might unfold for him. But for Carlson, it could be, it's a little bit of a sweet Sweet nectar here, passing Flores a pit stop ahead.
Yeah, statement of dominance more than anything, really. I mean, Vyas hasn't been lucky in this race as such, but Carlson has definitely made his own luck and driven to a higher standard. A shame for Flores, of course, and a safety car right now would only do so much to assist him in his recovery. But yeah, it is just Carlson. He's been on top form today in Imola and has definitely made the most of all the opportunities that have come his way. He's dropped Gasly entirely. He's looking home free for a win if he's able to keep it on track.
Yeah, another absolute masterclass so far for Carlson in the Aston Martin. Oyster and Kurz battling still, keeping it within a second of each other. That's Wobble is now nearly 8 seconds behind this pack. So, and then of course we've got Lexi, Slapbus, and Ryan McLean, and you could maybe say Liam, who's going to join this fight very, very soon, for the fight for the top 6.
Battles up on the circuit, looking very, very strong. There's Lexi. You can see all over the rear end of the Ferrari, but not close enough on this particular occasion, I'd say. Going to be eyeing up that move into turn 2, or maybe going into the first Ravazza. Not close enough on that attempt, but definitely eyeing it up. 71% ERS as well in the battery, weaving around a slap bus. Maybe he can also get involved and maybe make it a 3-wide moment. The Ferrari, of course, having to go defensive, but you can see that the Alpine and the Red Bull saw their way past as if that he's just stood still. Is Walpole and Lexi and Slapbus both through into 6th and 7th respectfully.
But crucially for Wapple, he's yet to pick up a penalty here, so if he can stay with this battle, with only 9 laps left remaining, doing a great job with no penalties. Stay with this, he's got himself a great result as the Ferrari with his teammate potentially on for a top 2.
Yeah, a very good day, of course, for Ferrari. Of course, their home Grand Prix as such here in Italy, of course, Imola. The pair of them looking very, very strong indeed. I mean, as a pair, they've been strong throughout the season, Walpole especially. So yeah, let's bring it on, see what they can do. Good points all if they're able to keep it going. Of course, Gasly, I'd say essentially secure a 2nd place. I don't really see, unless he spins or there's a crash or a safety car, I don't really see that changing into the final 8 laps of this race. Yeah, it's been a good one. Close battles all the way through. Penalties, however, you can see a big talking point.
Indeed, them. And penalties a big talking point as well. Phantom. He's now a second behind Captain Liam, who's in the DRS zone. No penalties for Phantom, neither Wapple. I've got to say though, Wapple's in a great position here. He might be at the back of this, but you could skip 4 drivers if he just manages to hold this pace. What he's on a hard compound tyre, so he's just going to stay with him. What is it looking like for Flores? Flores is just holding it out there, isn't he? He's holding it out there as long as he can.
Yeah, effectively, because obviously with a 5-second pit lane penalty, if it's deemed to be unjust and you haven't served it, it's more than likely going to be removed as such. If you have served it though, it can't be. So obviously you can serve it under a safety car, gain all that time back, and then get 5 seconds removed. And it's a case of, well, no, because that 5 seconds has influenced not only your race, but the race of others. And it's not really fair just to remove it, because that doesn't necessarily tell the whole story of the penalty itself. And you haven't necessarily received the punishment for it as such, because it can just be mitigated from a safety car pit stop or whatever. Or the 5 seconds and you've exited the pit lane and influenced another driver around you or whatever, and then you get 5 seconds removed and finish 5 seconds ahead of him. Not necessarily as fair as it can be, but if he's able to get to the end, he can get it removed. That's going to be the aim. Phantom moves his way into the top 10 ahead of the AlphaTauri of Liam, and the McLaren now, of course, making a double point score for the Papayas. But yeah, I think that's probably the aim for Flores. If he's able to stretch those mediums, is probably the better outcome for him, rather than trying to make a 2-stop.
Now, what do you mean by getting the 5 second removed?
So obviously in the sense that the point was made in the Twitch chat, of the sense, well, he's got himself another 3 seconds, but typically, if there is a glitch and he's gone the speed limit into the pit lane and still been given a 5-second penalty, he can maybe appeal that
oh, of course. And if he
change.
stretches, yeah, I get you. Yeah, sorry, yeah. And if he stretches that out, then you can get that removed, and he doesn't have to make that pit stopper that costs him 23 seconds. I didn't think of it like that, Zach. Yeah, fair.
So looking up for the appeal, but 6 seconds of track limits, same as to what he got in Austria. Not ideal by any stretch of the imagination, and obviously having to stretch those mediums to the end, also suboptimal. But if it's the best of a bad situation, you're going to have to take it. But at the moment in this championship, Carlson looks essentially bulletproof compared to Vyers, who there's been more often than not some form of damage limitation on days where Carlson has dominated.
Indeed, and that coming together at the start as well. Maybe that got under his nerve a little bit more than it did with Carlson. Carlson being able to after that incident into turn 1 and 2, maybe Carlson was found it easier to calm himself, get himself back into that rhythm, whereas Flores maybe struggled a little bit. Could that have been the reason why he struggled out there today, or was it just merely the fact that he's just got the strategy wrong out there today?
I mean, the start didn't help. With the contact with Carlson, losing the place to, of course, both Auster and Gagley, put him on the back foot. He had to burn through more of his tyres quicker, and just in general, I don't really think the softs were the way to go at all, with how quickly they wore off, especially at the start with full fuel. I don't know, it never looked to be a good strategy for Flores, and unfortunately it hasn't paid off for him. Couple that with some track limits mistakes and, of course, potentially speeding in the pit lane. Don't know for certain whether or not it was legit, but it's been a combination of things really for Flores. But all in all, maybe if it had started on a more ideal, more orthodox strategy, he'd have had a better race.
Indeed, and Gagley then P3 at the minute, now looking to make that move on Flores as well. Will Flores then just come into the pits, or will he just stay out? I don't know. It's just damage for him, but Gagley just having a great time out there today. It's got to be said. We've said it here before. He comes out, does one lap for quali, and it's looking like if he keeps it together, he may be able to get P2, but don't take Curse out of the equation here. Battling along with Oyster, whether or not them two are working together to try and bring that gap down. He's got no penalties as Curse, so if he just catches that gap by 3 seconds, he is in that hard compound tyre, and at this stage of the race, is going to be better than the mediums. But, actually, no, Gagley's on the hards as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's going to be tough for Curse with only a few laps left to go to actually close that gap with Auster as well breathing down his neck. He's going to be more pressured potentially to get a 3-second penalty himself, rather than effectively what could be a surefire third place when Flores Vyers, of course, inevitably drops off the podium. I mean, then again, Flores has got 6, so Curse only needs to close about a second and a half to get onto the podium, but is going to be tough, and also pending on Flores Vyers, of course, getting that 5-second penalty removed. But Auster wants that position for himself, at least on track, and maybe wants to pressure Curse into getting a penalty himself. There's a lot of things going through these drivers' minds right now, and a lot of maths in terms of the penalty situation. But Curse, so far, driving one of the most clean and consistent races out there.
We predicted a safety car and it didn't come. It definitely didn't come, guys. You know, the Tuatara Championship does tend to be very, very clean, and safety cars are fairly rare. It's not like racing in the paddy pat lobbies, that's for sure. But Oyster, like you say, he's you could tell what he's doing here. He's really trying to put Curse under pressure and maybe force a mistake, getting that 3 seconds, and then with a lap to go, use that extra ERS. He's got 60% of ERS there at the minute to try and get that position, but Curse is having none of it, driving and defending very well out there.
He is, and Auster not really able to find much of a way through. Flores Vyers versus Gagley. The Ferrari is through up into second place now on the road. Flores definitely struggling on those mediums. Confident himself, and I assume Timo Kuipers is his race engineer as such, and predicting that the safety car and making that overtake at the start would have been the better one. And to an extent, of course, I do agree. Making the most of those softs early would have been the way to go. But unfortunately didn't happen for them. I have to say, respect for making the best of a bad situation like you are. Going to be tough to retain the podium with those mediums and potentially dropping off the cliff. But yeah, all in all, Forest Fires, he's had a decent race despite all. He's, as I say, he's been lucky in an unlucky situation.
Yeah, doing a soft medium in a 50% around Imola with high tyre deg is pretty difficult, but it looks like he's going to pull it off. But it's just a shame that he's got those 11 seconds there, you know. But like I say, he's managed to do something that you wouldn't normally do. He started P2, and if he took away those penalties all in all, you know, he would be, you know, on a podium position, but not enough to get the win. Garrett Carlson just having a masterclass out there. And may I add, to have the pace Carlson does and push like he does and still not pick up a 3-second in this race. Still 2 laps yet to go, so I'm not going to quote him too much, but it is spectacular.
It is. It's amazing how quick this race has gone as well, but Carlson on top form and of course getting that pole position, keeping it initially at the start of the race, obviously dropping and then getting it back, and since then he's run away with things. He has definitely been at the top of his game, and once again, touch wood, for the final 2 laps of this race, they'll start when he crosses the line, lap 31 and 32. He will once again increase the gap in the championship even more to what I believe will be, of course, 15 points based on the normal FIA point system of 25 for a win, 18 and 15. Flores, if he's able to stay there, which at the moment, even if he does get that content removed, it's nip and tuck with Auster because that is bordering on 6 seconds at the moment.
Well, Oyster's now picked up another 3 seconds, so Curse is looking like the guy who may be able to nick that podium place out there today. And we start the penultimate lap. Carlson in a race of his own, absolute masterclass for Carlson. Once again, not getting a win last week. Nathan Clark picking up the win, unfortunately not able to race tonight. Due to getting on the piss, I think. But he seems to be. He seems to be. It is what it is. Back on top form for Carlson. He's got, like I say, 1.5 laps left to keep it together. But Curse looks like he's going to pick up that podium position. AFC Wapple still hanging on. Like we said earlier, to that group with 0 seconds of penalties. But I don't think he's quite within that 3 seconds of Lexi, which could be crucial there to jump Lexi into 6th place. So keep an eye on Wapple if he can keep it together and jump a few positions. Big respect for the guys out there, no matter what position they're in. Big respect for the guys sitting there with no penalties, right, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, driving a clean and consistent race is step 1, and they've done exactly that. So Phantom, Walpole, and Curse, and of course Carlson, you know, they're only 25% of the grid that have gotten to the end thus far that are going to be able to say that they didn't get a penalty, which is insane. Sloshy actually with the fastest lap of the race, down in 16th, the 1:14.9, so a little bit closer to qualifying pace. Here's Curse versus Auster. He pulls up to the left in the Mercedes, puts his way up in the 4th, still within 6 seconds of Flores, so potentially able to stay ahead. However, Flores Vyers on the last lap of this race, up 32 and 32, in critical danger of a potential puncher. He is going to be hoping
they're not looking great out there, Zach.
The sim racing gods are on his side as to get it to the end.
Indeed, I was just checking there. His tyres look a little bit wobbly, I tell you. Maybe he may or may not make it at the end. That would be just his day if that were one of them pops, wouldn't it? 82% is Flores' tyres. Soft mediums is not advised. And I think Flores is definitely displaying how not to do it. But if he does make it, it can be done. I think that's what we take from that. But today it's all about Carlson. Carlson then crosses the line, takes our checkered bag here at Imola. Carlson gets the win. Gagley then coming across the line. Great performance from Gagley. Flores does make it home on those 85% tyres. But those penalties are going to drop him down the order. Oyster doing an incredible job, and it's Curse that gets that podium after penalties applied. Oyster in 4th. Flores goes all the way down to 5th place. Lexi holds 6th. Now, does Wapple jump them? Yes, he does. Doesn't jump Lexi, but jumps Phantom and Slapbus then into 7th. Phantom in 8th. Slapbus in 9. Ryan McLean on his debut then gets the top 10. And Captain Liam, another reserve in 11th. CPI Chris 12th. Playsbot in 13th. Pricey coming in 14th shortly. And then it'll be Banana in 15th. Sloshy to round off the last running cars here at Imola down in 16th. Gracious Bear and that guy Jermaine are the only two drivers to DNF in this race. No safety cars, Zach.
No, a really clean race by Imola standards. Everyone staying on top form, and yeah, a couple of people with issues, but all in all, one of the cleanest races I've seen at Imola. One of the best races as well in terms of strategy, decisions, and ups and downs all the way through. Carson, on paper, the driver of the day. I'm going to have to give it to Gagley, though, because what a race relative to him. I mean, Carson's won enough races. He knows he's good. But Gagley drove that race with such maturity, such brilliance to bring home that second place.
He did, indeed. And I think I've got to agree as well. I just think the way that he performed, in his qualifying, and then just, at the start of that race when Carlson and Flores came together, and it was just a moment that the Ferrari just comes floofing through into P1. I think from that moment, he deserves to get drive the day. He stayed out of trouble. He had a great strategy for himself. Wasn't enough to match Carlson out there today, but Carlson was a world of his own. But for sure, Gagley, a one shot in quali, puts it on the second row and then picks up a P2. It's a great performance from him.
Yeah, all evening he drove well. Only one penalty as well to his name throughout the whole race, which is amazing to see. And as I say, just great maturity all the way through. Kurse as well, I have to give it to him. Drove a great race, no penalties either to his name. So again, another huge performance from the Mercedes. Auster, consecutive top fives and also potential podiums, without penalties and things like that. He definitely had the pace for a podium today. So many great results out there, but a big talking point, Floris Vyers, potentially off the podium. Again, we'll have to see how it works out with penalties and disputes and things like that. But another dent in the championship and another knockdown for Floris Vyers.
Yeah, it's a shame that Floris didn't get a podium out there today, because I'd really much like him to have a little conversation with what he was thinking with that strategy and, of course, his race in general. But if we can get the top three into the podium interviews, then that would be fantastic. I can't even find it myself for a minute. Where are we looking here? Where is it? There you go. Podium interview. I'll see you over there, Zach. Yeah, Zach, are you in with us?
Of course.
Oh, lovely. Love to see it. So we're just waiting for, hopefully, Gagley, Carlson and Kurse into the podium interviews. I don't suppose you can put a tag in, because I've got no order.
I'm here.
Who have we got?
Got Carlson at the moment. Gagley as well. Okay.
Carlson! P1, baby! Yeah. And, well, talk us through that race and the start with Floris, and how does it feel to be back on top today?
It was good. The start was on the formation lap. I went a bit too far on my grid, so I got sent back a meter or so. So that wasn't ideal. But I got a pretty good start of the hards off the line. But then me and Floris collided into turn one. We both lost like 2 positions.
And who do you think was at fault in that one? That was a silly question to ask, wasn't it? I mean, how did that come about? I mean, Floris on the soft tyre, clearly the better tyre through the corners. And but to be fair, considering you had the hard tyre, you had a great start. But that coming together, it's just 2 drivers really battling it out for the championship,
Yeah, I think I don't know. I feel like I couldn't really do anything. It was just like I was just there, and that just happened. I think it's a little bit of a racing incident.
Well, we'll see what happens if it gets reported or whatever. But well done, mate. Congratulations on the P1 out there today, stretching the lead in the championship. Zach, have you got anything for Carlson?
Just well done, mate. Once again, not bad as far as races go. Another victory, of course, under your belt, and more points in the championship. I mean, are you gonna lose? Is my question.
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe not.
All right.
Play, mate.
Fantastic job. Who else have we got in here, Zach?
Yeah, thank you. See ya.
Well, both
See
of
you
them
later,
now.
mate.
Kurt and Gagley have decided to show
we've
up.
got
So...
we've got a full podium this week. Lovely.
Oh yeah. Right.
Go on, Zachy boy, you go for it, man.
Awesome. So yeah, Gagley. Well, mate, I have to say, big fan after today. I got to say, I mean, what a drive. Obviously, great maturity. Was your plan ever the win, or was it just to get on the podium?
Definitely not the win. It's quite hard to keep with Carlson. Let's just say he's pretty fast, and yeah. I mean, I'm very happy with the podium, and yeah, nice reward.
I think it was great to see you come straight through with Flores and Carlson coming together. And it was a little bit of a moment of Silverstone and Hamilton through turn 1 and 2. And through goes Gagley. Well, talk us through that moment of staying out the way.
I mean, to be fair, if I'm being boring, like as soon as I went through, I was like, oh no, it's Tarleton and Forest time. It's nothing to be excited about. But yeah, no, it was very fun at the time. It was quite an exciting move. Yeah. So
Brilliant stuff, mate. Zach, what have you got else?
Can we expect more of it then? Obviously, throughout the rest of the season, we're into the second half. Of course, we have to rerun Catalunya later on, so technically not the second half yet. But under the planned calendar, we're into the second half. I mean, aspirations going forward in the championship as such. I mean, coming in today, you're down in 15th, but a nice healthy 18 points to add to that puts you right into the mix.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, Imola is one of my better circuits, so it would be nice to continue that through. But no, I wanna. Obviously, the first 3 races weren't great, but no, we just need to keep consistent and hopefully get some more podiums throughout the season. That would be very exciting, and hopefully we can boost Ferrari up a bit because right now we're quite low down. But yeah, need to. Yeah, all good.
It was a good showing there for the Ferrari boys today as well. I know your teammate AFC Wapple getting 7th place. So 2 drivers in the points for the Ferraris. Like you said, not a bad start towards the second half of the season. Congratulations, buddy.
Thank you, boys.
Up next, we've got NRT Curse in the Mercedes. It's a podium today, buddy.
Hello. Sound all good?
Yeah,
Thanks,
all
fine.
good, my friend.
Yeah, good.
How do you feel of that podium then, Curse?
Good. I feel good. I've had a lot of bad results recently, so it's good to get a podium. Not just in this league, elsewhere as well. But Flores said he might be able to get his 8 seconds removed, so I might not even be on the podium after penalties.
Well, that obviously that will be down to the stewards, but I think on track it's a well-deserved podium, don't you think, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, mate. Again, the fact you got through that whole race without penalties, the fact that you obviously drove really well in qualifying. Actually, no, you started from about P10 actually, but
P10.
Still a top 10, still a decent lap, and continuing a good form in qualifying. But the race pace was there, and you drove with what you were given. With the penalties, you drove according to the expectation of penalties, and P3, P4 at the end of the day, mate. Great points, and once again a great race.
Yeah. I think a lot of luck on that side as well. My teammate being involved in an incident anyway, lap 1. So I had the Oyster. I don't know how you pronounce his name.
Oyster in the McLaren.
Me and him were working together to try and get Flores the 11 seconds penalties they had. So that worked really well.
Yeah, you could see there was a few drivers out there in multiple different teams, knowing how crucial it was in areas to work together to try and catch up a group. And I've got to say, it worked out absolutely perfect for you. And of course, not getting any penalties. Only one of, what was it, 3 drivers in the end, was it, Zach, that had no penalties? 4? Who's,
1 of 4, I think.
Yeah, you know, so
Well-
that alone is just incredible, Kerr. So you want to be very proud of yourself. And I'm sure that you'll hold on to that podium place. It's really well deserved.
I had 2 warnings from like lap 5, and I had to push the entire time. So I was like
Wow.
nervous as anything to just put one wheel over the line.
Absolutely fantastic. Great job, Kurz. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is our podium sitters. How would you round this one up, Zach?
Come back next week, basically. Of course, in a week's time, we'll head to Montreal, 20th of Feb. We'll go to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, Canada, before we go to Silverstone, Jeddah, Brazil, Portugal. And then, of course, at some point, we have to revisit Spain as well. So still plenty of racing to come, plenty more points to be scored in the championship, and plenty more podiums to come as well. So, yeah, bring it on. Same time next week.
Perfect. And like I said, guys, anyone that wants to get involved in the Tuatara Championship, whether or not you just want to support, get yourself into the Discord, !TRL in the chat, and you can get involved. Thank you very, very much, everybody, for joining us here today. Paddy Pat and Zachy Boy signing out. What an incredible round 5 it was. See you later. Goodbye. God bless.
Have a good night, you two.
See you later.
Goodbye.
Bye, mate. Bye-bye.